Welcome to Lesson 7, where we will kick off the design thinking project part of our course. We will start with the first two phases of design thinking, empathize and define. So just as a reference, here's the design thinking roadmap. We'll be covering empathize today, which is about learning about users' experiences by getting to know them and caring about their lives and their experiences. We'll then move into the define phase, which is a short phase, but an important one that helps us create a problem statement that defines the problem space that we will explore. So how do we empathize in design thinking? Let's explore this first phase in the next few slides. The primary philosophy behind the empathize phase is to create meaningful innovations, you need to know your users and care about their lives. If you remember us talking through these images in the previous lesson, when we're looking at mHealth, smartphone apps, for instance, it's important to understand each of these users' full lives. Their exercise habits, the reasons why they're using certain apps, their health conditions, so that we can best understand who they are as individuals and the role that mHealth plays in their life, whether it's something that is helping them and benefiting them, or whether it's something that is not, that's maybe causing them frustration or doesn't have the type of functionality that they need. Empathize helps us explore some of these questions so that we can best get to know our users and develop meaningful solutions. Let's first talk through the purpose and the tools that we'll use in Empathize. The purpose of this phase is to understand what your users or the patients do and why they do it, including their physical and emotional needs and how they engage with the world around them, which also includes their goals as well as their frustrations. There are three primary tools that we can use in the empathize phase to help us accomplish our purpose. The first is to conduct research. We can use the internet or other types of information sources to learn about a specific characteristic of our user. In the case of health information technology, this would be an important place to take a look at a specific condition or an issue that a person is facing. For instance, I'll be exploring the example of sleep issues with you throughout the design thinking process. So I may want to do some research into, well, what exactly causes sleep issues? Or I've heard the term sleep apnea, but what does that mean? So doing some research can give you a better foundation of the health characteristics of your particular user. Another tool is to observe and engage. This is an active learning process where you're getting to know your user through direct interactions. And there's a number of different activities we can use to do this. Interviews, focus groups, surveys, observations, etc. And the goal of it is to hear their stories. The last tool we use is reflection tools. So we take the research that we've gathered as well as all of the data that we've gotten through observations and engagement, and we find a way to look at high-level themes. We reflect on what we've learned. So there's various tools we'll look at. Personas, empathy maps, insight cards, and affinity diagrams are just a few. Now some people might say, well, why do we have to go through this empathize process if we can just do some preliminary research and basically understand the characteristics or the experiences of people? Why do we actually have to go talk to them? This was a question that was posed in Dr. Joyce Lee's talk at the end of the previous lesson. She asked the question and showed this screen, who really knows what it's like to be a type 1 diabetic? Dr. Lee then said, the clinician in the lab coat, or we could phrase it, the designer behind a computer? Or is it the little girl who actually has type 1 diabetes since the age of 2 and knows what it's like to live with that chronic condition? This is why it's important that we talk to real people who live the health condition and truly understand their experiences. A clinician most certainly understands type 1 diabetes from a clinical perspective, just as a computer programmer or a designer will understand how to design an app to meet user needs. But you can't really meet those needs until you fully understand the experience of the user themselves. Or you might just be needing needs that you think they have instead of what they actually have based on their lived experience. So this is why Empathize is so important, to kind of get out of your comfort zone and actually go have real conversations with people who live the health conditions or issues that you're going to be researching. So let's walk through each of these tools as part of Empathize. The first one, if you remember, was about research. using the internet, books, experts, or any other types of information sources to learn about the health experience or condition that you're planning on focusing on. This can also include looking at competing apps or tools on the market. So the first thing you can do to conduct research is to look for reputable articles, research papers, or books. I suggest you use Google Scholar instead of just Google to make sure that you're getting accredited academic resources. Or you can also use Penn State's library system to search through the university databases. Now, if you're someone that prefers videos to reading long articles, then perhaps take a look at some videos from experts. TED Talks and TED Med Talks, which are specifically TED Talks for the medical field, are great resources to listen directly to researchers who have written all of those articles, but they say it in a verbal format that can sometimes be easier to digest. You can also take a look at YouTube videos created by different reputable healthcare professionals or organizations. Videos are a great way to get quick background and voice of the customer in order to help you research different health areas. As mentioned in the project overview, your team will be creating an mHealth smartphone app. So in order to take a look at things that currently exist in this space, you need to understand who your competitors are. I suggest you go to an app store, either iTunes for Apple or Google Play for Android devices, to explore existing apps related to the health topic or condition that you're going to focus on. You can search for other types of HIT as well, like different wearable devices or even assistive technologies. But understanding what currently exists for different users and patients to use is a really important part of doing your homework and researching the health area. So your team will select a specific health area to focus on this week. I'm going to be walking through all of these activities with one specific example, sleep issues. As I mentioned in the notes in your activity, as well as at the end of this presentation, please do not select this topic as yours, as I will be giving a lot of information about it over the next few weeks. But it will be an easy way for me to show you examples using one specific type of health condition. So when we spoke about research, we talked about looking at reputable articles, watching videos, going to the App Store and looking for existing products for someone that has a sleep issue. Here's a couple examples of things that I might find if I were conducting research. The first is a Cleveland Clinic paper that goes over the causes of sleep problems. So this is something I could easily read through and then summarize as part of my final report to show that I've done due diligence in my homework in trying to understand what actually causes sleep problems from a reputable source like the Cleveland Clinic. Now, videos are also great to watch. So Jeffrey Lilliff gave a talk on one more reason to get a good night's sleep, to talk about the benefits of good, solid sleep. This is another way to do some research to understand the experience of sleep, the impact it can have on people's lives. If you don't have good sleep, then it could result in negative issues. If you do have good sleep, it can have very many positive issues, not only on your life, but as well on your health. And last, I found a great article on best sleep apps for the iPhone from 2017, so I can read through that to see the reviews of what's currently out there for people that have sleep issues, to help me get a better foundation of what exists so that I can build on this and make something hopefully better. Now, once you conduct some basic research to kind of do your homework and feel a little bit more comfortable in the health topic that you've chosen, it's time to get out and observe and engage. This is where you talk to real people outside your own team to learn about their health experiences or conditions. You gather data on their opinions, their goals, and their frustrations. Let's talk about some tools that can help you do this. The first easy tool to help you actually talk to people is an interview, or you could do a focus group if you want a larger amount of people. Essentially, all you do is create an interview script that invites the user to tell stories about their lives and their experiences, specifically about their health or condition that you're investigating. A second great tool to use is a survey. Although this is slightly more indirect in that you're usually not talking directly to a person, it can give you access to a lot of different people, especially if you post your survey on social media. You can get 50, 60 responses simply by having people click on a link and fill out their opinions and their answers. So for a survey, you create a survey that asks both quantitative and qualitative questions about their health habits, experiences, opinions, goals, and frustrations related directly to the health topic that you're looking at. The last way to help you empathize with users through observations and engagement is doing direct observations, which is watching how people actually behave, and it can also be great to compare it against how they say they behave. Many times people's perceptions of their own behaviors don't actually match their actual behaviors. For instance, when I was doing my PhD study in the hospital, I would frequently ask clinicians about their opinions on privacy, maintaining patient privacy specifically. When they disclose certain information, different things that they did to protect the privacy of patient information. However, when I watched them in action, talking to people, discussing things on elevators or in open spaces, in the cafeteria, they actually weren't as strict as they thought they were. They thought that they would never talk about a patient's condition in a public space, but they did it quite frequently because that was part of their job, part of their experience working in a hospital. Other times, people might do an observation when they ask people what they eat during the day. People tend to underestimate how much they eat or the types of foods that they're eating, and this is also true when you ask them questions about drinking, whether it's caffeine or alcohol. Sometimes people underestimate the amount that they drink, but if you actually observe them or have them quantify it in some way, you'll see that sometimes there's differences, and this is where observation coupled with interviews or surveys is quite helpful in getting a full picture of who your patient or user is. Now, for your project as part of this course, you will be interviewing actual individuals. You can also do surveys and observations to supplement that data, but it's important that you have direct face-to-face conversation with individuals, especially when you're looking at developing a technology for a specific health condition. So here's an example of how I might develop an interview guide for someone who might have sleep issues. It's a number of questions, and you'll notice that there are some prompts underneath some of them, just to help get the participant to talk a little bit more about their story and their experience. And remember, the purpose of an interview guide is just to simply guide a conversation. You just want to hear their story, understand their life, understand how this health condition affects them, and the role that technology could maybe play in helping them. Question number 1, can you tell me the average number of hours you sleep each night? This is an easy question to kind of quantify and understand average number of hours. 2, do you have any issues falling asleep? Always remember when you're doing an interview to not assume that they have sleep issues. Make sure you actually ask the question and allow them to answer it. If they do say yes, then you can ask them different prompt questions like, how often does this happen? Or can you tell me the last time this happened? How did it make you feel? Asking them to talk about the last time something happened or when they experienced something is a great way to get a lot of descriptive data that fully explains the experiences that they go through. It's also important to ask questions about how it made them feel or their opinions about it, because again, this helps you get inside the user's head to truly understand what they're going through and making sure that you're not just assuming you knew what they're going through. Question number 3, what do you think causes your sleep issues? So in the previous area, you did a little bit of background research, and I showed you a Cleveland Clinic study that talked through some of the issues. So you might want to mention some of these if they can't come up with any. If they say, well, I don't really know, you could say, well, I read a recent article, and it actually said one sleep issue is that people watch TV up until the time they have to go to bed, or they drink caffeine too late at night. Are any of these things that you do? So your research, remember, can really help you better prepare for your interviews and talking with actual users. So make sure that you think through all of that research as you're building your interview guide. With question number 4, you can ask them, have you done anything to try and fix it? Some people may not, and other people may give you certain suggestions or apps that they've downloaded or habits that they've tried to change, which again gives you great insight into the different steps that they're willing to take to fix the issue. You can then start to get into more questions about their actual behaviors of trying to fix it. Have you ever tracked your sleep habits? Or number 6, have you ever used an app or any other technology device to help you do this? This is, again, a great way, if you know that you're building out an mHealth app, to understand what they currently use, and then asking them questions like, what did you like about it? And what did you dislike about it? So that you can build something that is better than what they're currently using. The last part of the Empathize phase is to reflect on all of this data that you've looked at. right? You did some research up front, you read some articles, watched some videos, looked at some of the competitors' products, and then you went out and you actually talked to people. You did interviews, maybe did a survey or some observations. Now it's time to bring all of this data together and to try and find some high-level themes or patterns that speak to some of the core issues or frustrations that these users or patients are experiencing. There's a number of tools that can help us do this. There's personas, which we'll explore in more depth. There's also empathy maps that have you think through all of the various things that a user might go through, how they think and feel, what they see, what they hear, what they say and do, and ultimately summarizing the pains that they have versus the gains that they have when they try and do something to fix it. Insight cards and affinity diagrams work hand in hand. Insight cards are simply, think about it like an index card, that anytime you're going through your data and you find something interesting, an interesting quote that somebody said or a theme that's emerging, you simply write it down on the index card and maybe reference where it came from, what interview or what research paper. And then when you get all of those together, you can start to arrange them into meaningful categories, which is what we call the affinity diagrams. There's a number of ways in which you can do this to help you make sense of your data. But the ultimate goal of this final step of Empathize is simply to pull out some of the main issues so you can hone in on one of them that you want to try and fix. For the project in this class, we're just going to focus on one of these activities, the personas. I'd like you to watch this short video about what are personas, done by MJV Technology and Innovation. It'll give you a great high-level overview of the purpose of a persona, and then we'll come back together to talk more about how you can create one for your project.